So the Premier League season starts this Friday, Man United versus Fulham, and I'm bored of pre-season. I just wanted to start. But just talk about one of the changes I've seen in the Premier League is the youth academies. The youth academies from 10 years ago, they're completely different. I think it's mainly since COVID, but definitely in the last year or two. The outlook has just completely changed. So in this video, we're going to look at why that has happened. And by this, I don't mean the actual logistical side. Obviously, it's still about getting young players from the local area for the most part, or maybe from overseas, and then raising them through the ranks, and then eventually they'll become professional footballers. But that's the thing, I think it did used to be like that. It used to be Arsenal wanting some young lads in their youth academy who they could give the Arsene Wenger way of how to play football, and eventually they could use these players instead of buying a £60 million striker. They could put Eddie Nketiah or Emile Smith-Rowe or Bukayo Saka into the team. But nowadays, I think youth players are just complete assets to the club, and there is one reason, in my opinion, that this is happening, and it's that big bad word. It's PSR, it's profit sustainability rules, that has just completely been taken over media for the last year and a half. Again, the quicker we can get this financial talk out of football, the better, but obviously it's so relevant at the moment, so you've got to speak about it. It is basically a Premier League club can't lose over 105 million within 3 years, so it's about 35 million per season. And why do I bring up youth academies? It's because if you sell a player from your youth academy to another team for 40 million, then that means you made 40 million pure profit. And obviously the main culprits of this are Chelsea. Chelsea have spent so much money, especially since Todd Bowley's come in and Abramovich left with all the sanctions. I'll put a picture on the screen of Chelsea's squad depth. It's just ridiculous, but in a bad way. No one wants to spend like Chelsea. You don't want a football club run like this. But to negate all the issues, which I think inevitably will come with financial fair play and also the PSR rules with Chelsea, they're selling a lot of their youth products, as they did previously, but it seems to have sped up a bit more. But you do look at it, this probably facilitated part of the Pedro Neto transfer from Wolves, because as of today, Sunday night, Pedro Neto has signed for Chelsea. Let's take a look, and hopefully it's the last time I ever mention his name, Mason Greenwood, going from Manchester United to Marseille. Obviously he was on loan at Getafe last season, and loads of clubs are after him, but Marseille bought him for 20 plus million, and this is the reason Manchester United had not washed their hands of him. If he got bought from Bolton as a young player 4 years ago, and he did what Mason Greenwood was accused of, then Man United would have got rid of him the second that news article came out. But because he was pure profit and they knew they could get quite a bit of money off him, obviously not as much as if everything didn't come out about him a few years prior, then they still made 20 million pure profit, which if you look at this season, they are spending so much money bringing in De Ligt, Mazraoui, and all the signings they've brought in. So I suppose there's different arguments to it, because let's take Chelsea again for an example. Their academy system is built up so they can get around the rules, in the sense that if a player is under the age of 16, I believe, that means they have to be within a 90-minute travelling time to the club's training facility, which obviously is going to put a spanner in the works if Chelsea wants someone from the other side of London, for example. But Chelsea have so many academies based around London that they can negate this fact, and it doesn't matter, because if a player's in Clapham, for example, I don't know London that well, but if a player's in Clapham, or if a player's in Croydon, or if a player's in wherever, then they'll always have somewhere for the player to go train. And this is like it in Benfica as well, which I've done a video on before. It's not the same rules, but they have training facilities up and down the country, so the players can feel at home and they don't have to go away from the families at such a young age. And it's a shame, because it's a club like a Brentford, who closed their academy in 2016, has recently been relaunched a couple of years ago, I believe, but they closed it because it didn't seem financially viable at the time. It seemed that they were just raising these players from age 8 to 14, and then Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham would just come straight in for them in the London area. And obviously, if you're a 14-year-old lad in London, you definitely, unless you're a diehard Brentford fan, you're going to go to Tottenham, you're going to go to Arsenal, aren't you? So I think this is pushing academies to rethink their strategy. However, like I said, since the PSR rules have become a lot more enforced, let's say with Everton and Nottingham Forest, clubs are realising that the academy it is so valuable in terms of keeping the lights on. Because, for example, Kieran Maguire, you might have heard of his name, the Price of Football podcast host, he said that you just need to sell a Mason Mount every 5 years just to keep the academy running, which obviously for the lower teams is a bit of a struggle, but for the higher teams, that's very doable. But I suppose the real question is this for the better or the worse for English football? And in my opinion, it's actually for the better. Yes, it's not the ethically the best way as using these young players just as basically cattle and throwing them about and just trying to make money off them. However, it used to be the sense that if anyone remembered Chelsea, especially in the 2010s, Vitesse came such a renowned team in England because it was where every single Chelsea academy player would go to Holland and play for that club. If you go on all the best players for Chelsea in the 2010s who came for the youth academy, 90% of them probably played for Vitesse at one point. And it's someone like a Lucas Piazon. Some people might not remember his name, but he was such a promising player that Chelsea just dotted around every single season to keep him trying to progress into a good player. And unfortunately never gave him a home, and he never turned into anything really. Whereas nowadays, if an Aston Villa have to sell an Aaron Ramsey to Burnley, they have to sell a Cameron Archer to Sheffield United, who they've recently bought back, then it gives players opportunity to play because they're like, right, we need this money for Cameron Archer. Sheffield United are going to pay us 20 million, so he's going to start for them regularly, and we're going to get money. So it kind of benefits both of the club. And that, in my opinion, is only a good thing. Of course, people are really angry and really frustrated with these PSR rules. I feel bad in an academy sense with Newcastle. I spoke about this in a previous video again, but with Elliot Anderson getting sold to Nottingham Forest, he was such a promising player for them, and they had to sell him to get the pure profit off him to stay in line with the PSR rules, which is really unfortunate for the club. And I think this will force a lot of teams to sell their academy products that they really would like to keep in the side, progress, and make somewhat of a hometown hero to another club just to keep in line with these rules. But to play devil's advocate on that, you could say it's the nature of the beast. They bought Sandro Tonali for 60 million, they bought Bruno Guimaraes for 50-60 million. That if you have to sell one of your academy products, it's not just the system's fault. But I like it seeing young players get more of an opportunity elsewhere instead of the club just hoarding them, Chelsea in particular, because someone like Liam Delap gone to Ipswich this summer for 20 million, which is a insane amount to get for him. And the best of luck to him, because he might have just dropped around the leagues for a while on loan and then not turned into anything. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of kind of the new academy structure that the teams are going for. I think it could have some bad elements because maybe teams might get more aggressive with young players. Maybe the emotional element might become a bit more detached because they just see them as pure cash cows to get the best player from Italy or Spain. But also, I like the playing time element of it because it's really rubbish seeing a promising young player that you've seen from age 16 just ride the bench for a team for years and years and years and then not amount to anything and just have a career in the lower leagues. But yeah, if you could leave a like and a comment on this video, tell me what you think of it, and if you could subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I've got more content, especially for the new season coming up. But thanks for watching.